Folks, time for today's edition of Roland Martin Unfiltered. Thousands march in D.C. against Judge Brett Kavanaugh, while GOP senators accept a sham FBI investigation that didn't even bother to interview the woman who accused him of sexual assault. Our cameras were on Capitol Hill, and you will hear the voices of folks who are protesting. The fate of the cop who killed Laquan McDonald has gone to the jury. We'll have a live report from Chicago. Also, the Dallas Police Department and the Dallas DA are refusing to release records on the cop who gunned down Botham Jean in his own apartment. We'll hear from the family's lawyer, Lee Merritt. Also, you remember when Donald Trump asked African Americans, what the hell do you have to lose? Well, the Congressional Black Caucus has dropped a new video that says a hell of a whole lot. And speaking of Trump, he might be getting poor as a result how his hotels are getting the media richer. We'll talk with the head of Media America here to break it down. Folks, it's time to bring the funk on Roland Martin Unfiltered. Let's go.
Whatever it is, he's got the scoop, the fact, the find. And when it breaks, he's right on time and it's rolling. Best believe he's knowing. Putting it down from sports to news to politics. With entertainment just for kicks, he's rolling. It's on go, roll, y'all. It's Roland Martin, yeah. Rolling with Roland now. He's funky, he's fresh, he's real, the best, you know he's Roland Martin now. Martin.
Nomination of Brett Kavanaugh to the Supreme Court is on its way to the floor of the United States Senate after the vote of committee cleared Brett Kavanaugh when it came to the issue of sexual assault. Here's part of the problem, though. The woman who accused him of sexual assault, who appeared before Congress, who testified before Congress, was never interviewed by the FBI. We also know that 40 other people who might have had details about what he did also were not interviewed. So what's going on here? Asked to withdraw by the National Council of Churches, his partisan behavior condemned by thousands of lawyers and law professors. Even a group of nuns said he should not be confirmed. And a former Supreme Court justice says he should not be confirmed. But the Republican Party says, doesn't matter, we're going to move forward. Well, on Capitol Hill, thousands of folks, largely led by the Women's March, they turned out to protest there. Check this out.
The song that I would like to lead us in is called Quiet. It was
Here today because I do not think it's right to confirm a judge who is clearly partisan.
I'm here today for cause and the injustice for them trying to put in a justice or a judge that's going to be here forever. If for no other reason than the fact that his temperament and his political views and his partisanship, that is enough to not have him be over any court system for the rest of his life. So I am here to support this and not to have Kavanaugh in, and that is my reason for protesting today, and I will keep on protesting every day as I started out with the Million Women's March many, many years ago.
We're essentially just protesting Kavanaugh being on the Supreme Court today. We think that it's imperative that we believe women when they talk about their sexual experiences, and for him in the Supreme Court.
I'm here to stand grandmothers, mothers, aunts, nieces, daughters, godchildren, who have been maligned by this whole pig who's a sexual predator in the White House with his cohorts. And it's time that all women, I don't care what color, what age, stand up and get rid of every Republican anywhere, because they are about destroying us and taking us back to 1700.
And also, beyond the folks who were outside, they also lined the hallways of the Hart building, and their goal was to shut it down. Cops did it for them because there were so many people who were in the various offices. Let's go right to our panel here. Joining us today, A. Scott Bolden, attorney, former chair of the D.C. Democratic Party, D.D. Baz-Wilbon, principal at Baz Public Affairs, and Dr. Greg Carr, chair of the Department of Afro-American Studies at Howard University. What is interesting is that there was a news that took place where of course, Senator McConnell, the majority leader, he also had lots of things negative to say about Democrats. And I still find it quite interesting to listen to Republicans actually have a straight face in complaining about process when I recall President Obama nominating a Supreme Court nominee, and Republicans would not even give him a meeting, not a hearing. No, many of them would not even meet with him. And so it's a little hard for me to listen to somebody talk about process when they said the hell with the process and held a seat open for 243 days and were proud to deny a president elected twice by the people who won the Electoral College and the popular vote, unlike Donald Trump. Scott?
Yeah, really, it is the height of hypocrisy and the depth of the GOP. Men who make up the GOP. Who simply don't
on the
care.
committee,
who simply don't care. You see the women, men, white and black protesting. You see that the judicial temperament issue, watch this, and his misleading or lies about his drinking have now dominated the protests. Not the fact that he allegedly assaulted this woman 36 years ago. And the GOP anger is directed at the Dems, but it's only directed at the Dems because they cannot direct it at her directly or specifically. So the angst they have towards the Dem is really angst they have towards her.
Didi, is it a real investigation when the White House limits the scope of the investigation and they don't even interview Dr. Ford, who accused him of sexual assault?
I think the investigation, this is like the 7th FBI investigation that they've done for correct. And investigation.
Wow.
I think she did 5 people that could corroborate her testimony. Those people said they could not. The other people, I think it was a large number, I can't remember the exact amount, but they weren't involved in this alleged incident. It was either before or after. And so if you're doing an investigation, you're investigating that allegation, nothing else.
What about the other 2 accusers?
So those other 2 accusers were not part of, they were not there that night. The other 2 accusers, for Dr. Christine Ford, there's separate incidences. And so you have, this investigation, to my knowledge, is based on her testimony and what happened with her.
But why limit an investigation solely to her testimony if there are others who come forward to say this happened? This very much is very similar to what happened with Hill, where you had a sister who, and she did not back out, only called. They purposely limited the scope of the investigation to one person.
Well, I mean,
how is that a complete investigation?
I think it's very clear that not only is this not a complete investigation, fascism creeps. It doesn't hit it once. When you look at Hitler in 1938 and 1939, he won an election, and then he promised to basically make Germany great again. Then he annexed part of Czechoslovakia. Then England coddled him. Next thing you know, we're in World War II. Let's contrast this now. These people are going to ram Kavanaugh on the Supreme Court down the throat of the American people out of spite. They have another 24 people they could put on who are ideologically the same. Anytime you see not just the American Bar Association, but you see John Paul Stevens came out, retired Supreme Court Justice, and said, the man is qualified. Let's hold distinct this fake investigation, because that's about the roots. What he admitted, set that aside. John Paul Stevens said he's qualified.
Nominated by a Democrat.
That's exactly right.
Nominated by Republicans.
That's exactly right. And then he said, but what changed his mind was this man's performance 1 week ago today.
The unhinged performance.
Judicial, judicial temperament.
You're sitting in a courtroom, when you're sitting anywhere, and you know
a judge,
and you know that you are innocent. You know that you didn't do anything. You wouldn't get upset?
But hold on, but Didi, but Didi, had somebody operated the exact same way he did, he would admonish that person in a courtroom for their tone, for their tenor, for their attitude. That's what he would do.
How do you know that?
Okay, Scott, you're a lawyer. Okay. And Brett Kavanaugh was the judge. Would Brett Kavanaugh allow you to behave the way he did in the courtroom?
Absolutely. But here's the other thing. I've prepped witnesses for 28 years. There is a way that we prep witnesses if they want to be angry, emotional, if they're upset, or if they're wrongfully accused, whether you're on the prosecution side or defense side. And there is a way for him to have conveyed all of that. But what did he convey? I don't mind the emotion and the anger. What I mind is the gratuitous partisan attacks on the Democratic senators, including the women. And secondly, in the Q&A, he was completely obnoxious and offensive, lacked no decorum whatsoever. And those protesters out there that you just showed, that's really what they're reacting to.
And when you tell a senator who's admitted that her father was an alcoholic,
he knew that. No.
The bottom line,
he needs her vote in this job interview. It is outrageous.
But again, though, I'm going to go back to the same question.
You're innocent until proven guilty.
That doesn't mean you can be disrespectful, offensive, or lack any decorum.
So, Didi, here's the question then.
Exactly, but no, one second. Here's if he's guilty or not.
One second, here's my question.
How he carries himself.
My question.
And does he have the temperament to be on the Supreme Court?
Does temperament matter to the Supreme Court?
Exactly. It
No,
does.
I'm asking. Does it matter?
It does.
Do you believe that Brett Kavanaugh showed the proper temperament of a Supreme Court justice, one of only 9?
A nominee.
And in fact, if he is sworn in, one of 114 in American history, was that proper temperament?
He was upset.
No, I'm asking you a question, yes or no.
Yeah.
Was the temperament displayed by Brett Kavanaugh, was that proper for somebody to be a Supreme Court justice?
It was proper for someone who was being a father.
I'm going to ask a question for an individual who will be one of 9 to sit on the court of the land. No, Scott.
It was proper for someone who was being falsely accused. You can't tell me that when he gets on the bench, that he is going, and you can't lump every judge in America saying that every judge is going to call someone out if they act that way in court. I worked with 2 Supreme Court judges in Atlanta, Georgia, and I've seen them, and I've seen
people.
You've
seen them act that way?
No, I have not.
So I'm going to ask.
Excuse me, I wasn't finished. Okay. I said that I worked with them, and I saw and I've seen them get upset and intense over different cases. And I've seen the people in their courtrooms get upset and intense over other cases. So you can't say that once he gets on the bench that he will get excited or he will get emotional the way he got emotional. You can't say that. You don't know without a shadow of a doubt that it will happen.
I'm going to ask the question again. There are 9 Supreme you saw was that proper temperament of somebody to be one of 9 Supreme Court justices and the 114th in American history? Yes or no?
It's unanswerable.
Scott, go ahead. Yes or no?
It was not the proper way, maybe, but if someone is accusing me of something, I'm going to get intense.
If someone's accusing you, wouldn't you want to be thoroughly vindicated? But it's okay. Because here's what I'm saying.
You're absolutely right. I would want to be thoroughly vindicated.
I really don't.
Then there have been 7 investigations.
I really don't care,
right?
because the Republican Party
investigate what you don't know.
Greg, go ahead.
The Republican Party, through gerrymandering, through stealing elections, through voter suppression, has put themselves in a position now to roll back the 20th century on the federal bench. Let them have it, because here's what's going to happen. Last night, you probably saw Roland and Jane Mayer got sworn testimony is confirmed, and I think is going to get through. When he's confirmed and when he's sitting on that bench, and when these stories not only don't go away but begin to come out, what we're watching is the dismantling of the federal apparatus. Article 3 of the federal Constitution, an independent judiciary, is about to be broken beyond repair. So let's just get it on.
But watch this. There's another part to this that it ought to be even more disturbing. if and when, or if he gets on the bench, despite his temperament, right? That presentation probably disqualified him from hearing and sitting on several cases.
You think so, Scott?
Sexual assault. I think it disqualifies him from sitting on any issues brought by the Democrats or Democratic-leaning organizations.
You think he'd have to recuse himself?
I think he would, appropriately he should. I'm not saying he would, right? I think he's got to recuse himself from anything related to the Clinton investigation.
No question about that.
The president said I'm not saying This is about his temperament and the things he gratuitously said to those senators sitting there. And it was not judicious. The temperament, I represent clients who have to make incredible presentations under stress and anger. And there's a way he could have conveyed that without gratuitously taking partisan attacks. I mean, I think he and Donald Trump wrote that presentation. Oh, sure. They sat together. That's why Donald Trump was the only other person who read it and said, go get him, guys. Go get him, boy.
And he perjured himself.
This was a red meat speech.
I want to do this here. One second.
Over the drinking. And the drinking issue is really important.
One second. Here's a video, Orrin Hatch, talking to some protesters, of course, who were in the hallway there. And I just want to get y'all thoughts on this.
He and Donald Trump wrote that presentation. They sat together. That's why the red meat speech.
We got multiple feeds going up at one time, so here we go.
I heard you.
Talk to us and exchange it with us. Don't you wave your hand at me. I wave my hand at you.
When you grow up, I'll be glad.
When I grow up, how dare you talk to women that way? How dare you, that first? How dare you? That's right. You just whistle it out.
Ma'am, you gotta hold the door, ma'am. You're gonna get arrested. Senator, do you believe women?
So you had comments. So yeah, Orrin Hatch, you said, when you grow up, I'll talk to you. And then again, you also saw Senator Grassley again, really angry and upset. And go ahead.
I don't condone, and at Bass Public Affairs, we have attack policy, right?
Absolutely.
And I don't think that that the president said in regards to him mimicking Ford. I don't condone when Senator Cruz and when Sandra Huckabee, when they were harassed out of the restaurant with their families or whatever. But it's on both sides. And
really?
So that...
The people who harassed people at the restaurant are voting for a Supreme Court justice?
The people that harass the people are voting for whomever.
No, I'm saying, I think what Hatch did was beautiful. I really enjoyed that because what we're testing now.
And the people that were in his hallway and waving their fingers at him.
Actually, he was in their hallway. At least that way I understand the federal government.
Yeah.
But you know, it's okay. But I'm saying I'm enjoying this in one way.
Okay.
We're about to test the foundations of American democracy. These elite white male supremacists don't care. They don't care American. The proposition whether or not the they're going to break this thing, and then we're going to have to build it again.
White male privilege, dismissive of them.
No question.
Of course, they were expressing their First Amendment, and were they waving their finger at him, of course, but there was security between them. And then he says, when you grow up. He's going to dictate to them how they protest and how they exercise their First Amendment. And then he's in the elevator with security in front of him, and he waves at them like they're children.
So here's the question.
Because that's what he thinks about
So here's the question, very simple. Right. So obviously, you got a midterm election coming up 34 days before we go to the polls. Republicans are trying to hold on to a number of their seats, also trying to pick up several of the Democratic seats. Which side do you think benefits greatly from this Brett Kavanaugh hearing? Do you believe that it is going to inspire more conservatives to come out and vote, or do you believe the polling numbers which are showing that the Republicans are losing women, especially white women, now down 18 the points? Will that number go?
I think the numbers for women are going to skyrocket and be off the chain. And I think whatever state we're in, that the women are going to have their presence felt. Remember, this is the year of the women 2.0, and I think the Kavanaugh issue, whether he's in or out, motivates them. On the Republican side, I think if he gets in, they're going to be less motivated because they will have conservative control of the court.
They got exactly what they wanted.
They got exactly what they wanted.
I think that women, I think people are going to vote for and vote on their values. I think that with the election coming up, people are going to stand by what they believe, whether he gets in or whether he does not get in. And I think that...
But turnout, it means everything. And I think that's what this question is about.
Turnout, it does mean everything. You're absolutely right. And I think that more people, I have two 16-year-olds and a 19-year-old who are really getting into politics. And I think that people are paying attention, people are listening, and be adults about it, and together and be respectful of each other, I think we'll get to exactly where we want to go.
Well, the respectful would have been great if they actually gave President Obama an actual hearing with Supreme Court nominee.
Actually, no.
They could have voted him down.
But
one second.
You're absolutely right. They could have voted him down. And so what the Republicans did, as a conservative, I'm not going to sit here and say that it was right, because it wasn't right. They could have voted, and they didn't vote. They should have voted. They should have given an opportunity to vote. Absolutely. But what the Democrats are doing right now, it's okay to run a man's name through the mud with no evidence.
Well, I mean,
that's
no,
okay.
well,
Oh, sure.
no,
Who ran his name through the mud?
Let's not even.
that narrative. The Democrats did. Tell me one thing the Democrats did.
Greg.
Let's not even entertain that false. Let's not even entertain that false equivalency.
Well, it is.
Greg, as we say, Roland Fair, they're calling them real nervous. Don't come out. Let's just that. Okay. But first thing is, most people are not going to vote. Period.
What are you talking about?
No. Well,
yeah, first of all, if you look at the numbers, you have more than the majority of Americans who will not vote. But of the people who are going to vote,
and that's the question.
Right. I mean, I do believe. I think you're going to see extreme turnout on the Democratic side. And again, the issue is going to be. Well, first of all, we're going to see. You go to my Henry. Go to my iPad. You'll see this is from the New York Times story today, showing who voted in 2016.
Wow.
Black women, 94% for. First of all, I had a Republican official who told me black women hate Republicans more than any other group in America.
No question.
This poll shows that black women 94% for Clinton, black men 82% for Clinton. Hispanic women were next at 68%. Hispanic men 63%. White women 43% for Clinton, 52% for Donald Trump. White men 62-31 for Donald Trump, and others 61-31. The key is going to be an increase in the district. But what is going to happen with white women? First of all, white men are probably going to be the same numbers for Republicans over Democrats.
That's right.
But what happens with white women? Will you see them energize and turn out? That's going to be the question. Final comment before I go to the next story.
Very quickly, the white women, that number is going to decrease, but if we're only white people voting, the Republicans are safe. It's going to be about turnout, and the local elections are going to mean a whole lot more. The Republicans are probably going to lose the House. The Senate is up for grabs. Beto O'Rourke looks like he might be up in Texas, but Stacey Abrams is fighting a guy who every commercial he has got a gun across his lap. White supremacy is going to be tested in this election, and the way it's looking, I think it's a toss-up. Really.
All right, then, folks, let's go to Chicago, where the fate of former Chicago cop Jason Van Dyke, who shot and killed Laquan McDonald, is now in the hands of the jury. While Van Dyke is on trial for first-degree murder, the judge told the jury they could also find Van Dyke guilty of second-degree murder, which is a much shorter sentence. Here with the latest from Chicago, Domite Pongo. Domite, what took place in the courtroom today? And also, is this question?
Domite, and thanks, Roland, for having me on.
I keep saying Domite because but I got to go ahead.
No, it's no problem at all. But a lot happened in court today. The defense and the prosecution gave their closing arguments. The defense appealed to the humanity of Jason Van Dyke. They said that Jason Van Dyke is a man who doesn't need to be, for the rest of his life, identified as a murderer. They said that Van Dyke, if Laquan was a Boy Scout, maybe this would have been a wrong shooting, but he was a troubled child. And they also say that Jason Van Dyke followed his training. Well, the prosecution says Jason Van Dyke didn't know anything about Laquan McDonald's background, right? They said when he came to that shooting, he already knew that he was going to shoot him, using the quote that the psychologist that the defense called, "We're going to have to shoot this guy." The defense is saying that, and people defending Jason Van Dyke is saying that statement was taken out of context. It was mostly out of shock. A few other things really quickly that the prosecution outlined. They said that Jason Van Dyke didn't take time to reassess the situation the way his partners did. About 25 seconds after this whole ordeal, a taser arrived at the scene, which is something that the other officers called for.
And again, is this jury sequestered, or are they allowed to go home, allowed to see news? What's the case with the jury?
The jury is being sequestered. The jury is being sequestered, and as we talked about a while back, there's only one African American on the jury, which has been a point of contention. The county of Cook is about 25% African American. The city of Chicago, 30% African American. Only one African American on the jury. 7 whites, and the rest of them make up Latino, and one person believed to be an Asian, I believe.
That's real hard when you have second and somehow only one black person on the jury.
Yeah, especially in a case that's as racially charged as this. That has been something that people have really been looking at rather closely. And right now, I'm getting notes from activists who say that at 6:30 Chicago time in the South Shore neighborhood on the city south side, and a protest at 71st and Chappelle, a demonstration is already being planned. Chicago police officers have deployed thousands of police officers on 12-hour shifts. Days off have been canceled. They're expecting over the next few days a lot of activity. And this weekend is the Chicago Marathon, a popular event in the city of Chicago. So that's something activists in this city are known to disrupt large events to get the attention of lawmakers, and police are ready to respond to that type of thing. So it's going to be something to pay attention to for the next few days.
All right. Now, we certainly appreciate it. Thanks a bunch. We'll be watching this verdict to see what takes place.
All right, thank you, Roland. A lot to cover here, so I look forward to breaking it all down with you.
All right, thanks a bunch, folks. Let's now go to Dallas, where the city of Dallas and the Dallas County DA, they're trying to keep public records in the Botham. The city has received 41 requests from the former officer's personnel file to 911 calls made after the shooting to what time she punched her time clock in and out on the day of the shooting. Yet the city attorney's office is seeking to deny them all. This is not sitting well with the attorney for Botham Jean's family, and we'll be chatting in a moment with Lee Merritt, of course, who is the attorney for the family. I want to go to our panel here, talk about both of those cases. Obviously, Chicago is on edge, waiting to see what happens with this Jason Van Dyke decision. The city fought for 4 years for the videotape not to be released, and then once it was released, we finally saw that Jason Van Dyke and the cops involved were all lying.
Graphic.
They lied by saying Laquan McDonald was racing towards them when he wasn't. And we also know that that they went to a nearby Burger King, which had surveillance cameras, and then there's a huge gap there, and those officers raced that. So basically, and some of those officers have retired, have been disciplined. But I keep telling people, if you want to understand why there's a problem in Chicago, people don't trust cops in Chicago, this is a prime example.
It's a thick blue line, not just a thin blue line in Chicago. I'm from Joliet, Illinois. Spent a lot of time in
Black
Chicago.
Cop or white cop. It's a blue line.
That's right. Now, what's most interesting about the Laquan case is that if you read, I watched the closing, but I also read about some of the testimony. The police officer took the stand in defense of himself. The psychiatry notes say something else, though. That when it came over the radio, that he said this, shoot him if he attacked one of us with this. And then he said, we're going to have to shoot him if we run into him. They ran into him, they pulled up and start fighting in silence. Rhea and where his mind was. That alone ought to convict him of not just first-degree murder, but second-degree murder. I think in the Dallas case, it's very bizarre. They're going to have to release that video. This is a bizarre case in Dallas. Something else was going on between those two, or something's going on between the police and this cop and that individual who was shot.
I think the video was really clear. And to me, I'm not an attorney, never played one on TV. But it just appears to me in the video, from what I saw, the young man was actually walking. They said that he was on something, or he was very hyper. He was clearly going to his right. The officer was to his right. He really was walking away. And officers on the video, you can hear the officer say, or the dispatch tell them, that he has a knife.
He was unstable.
And he was unstable, and you could tell that in the video that he was unstable. So for the police officer to pull up, and you can see his door ajar as he gets out before the truck even stops, and then he's already ready to shoot someone.
Ready?
Because he shot him.
He's already ready. So I think that, again, I don't play an attorney, but I just think that to me, it's a very clear case.
Greg, a couple of things very quickly. Number one, people wonder about why they're registered to vote. Juries are drawn from voter registration pools. So even if you don't pull the lever, register to vote so that you can serve on a jury.
Absolutely.
Secondly, jury selection matters. like you said, how could they be that few non-whites on a jury in the city of Chicago? Because the lawyers go in and knock them out. And you make it easy by not being in the pool you serve. Life is cheap in this country, always has been. He was shooting at a human, he was shooting at a black. And so he feels like he can execute. If they let this man go, Michael Flegger on the outside has already said, they're going to shut Chicago down.
But you know, having been on the both sides of these types of cases, I got to tell you, Roland, one thing I've never understood about the police, wherever they are in the country, is with these mental cases, instability cases, PCP cases, what is the rush? These people are unstable. Laquan was walking away. You could have boxed him in with your car and held him. Mental health advocates could have come. You could have overcome him with, and I don't want to say it sounds the wrong way, but with the help of a police dog, if you will. There are ways to suppress him and take him alive.
Because they don't want to.
As opposed, exactly.
No, they don't want to.
What is
first
the
of all,
rush?
look, we know the case of the young man who was clearly mentally disturbed in St. Louis after the Michael Brown, and when the cop, it literally opened the door. It was 6 times before 7 shots were fired to kill him.
That's right.
Okay,
and that's why we have
so
Black
you had 2 cops with guns, a mentally stable man who actually was yelling, "Kill me, MF, kill me."
Right.
Now, I don't care who you are. If you're looking at somebody who's yelling at 2 cops who have guns, "Kill me," and you got a butter knife in your hand, you got a problem. But again, they also know that the law is on their side.
That's right.
The law says that if a cop is believed to be in imminent danger, or if, even in Missouri law, if there's a certain space between them and the person, they have the right to shoot to kill. And for them, they're not considering it. Oh, but we could show some video of somebody white who's actually been that way, and they have almost a brawl, and nobody pulls their gun out or even a taser. But that's one of the things that we see. We do now have Lee Merritt, who's on the phone, joining us from Dallas. Lee, the DA as well as the city attorney, they don't want to release information. Lee?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes,
Hello?
now I can. Go ahead.
Yeah, the truth is the Dallas Police Department is releasing information that they believe would be exculpatory towards Amber Geiger. The DA has always followed a strict policy of not releasing information. So the only information that's getting out is information that is that her comrades over at DP, and they're releasing it anonymously, and they're violating the orders of the district attorney. But Chief Renee Hall has actually failed to give them orders about speaking to the media and releasing the information. So that's been one of the more frustrating parts about dealing with this new chief, who I think is great in terms of her resume. I wanted to see her be more proactive in getting her officers under control to be sure that they're not releasing information that they believe will Amber Geiger give.
And so, for the DA's office, do you believe that they are trying not to release information because they want to complete their investigation and then take it to the grand jury? And for you, what specific information do you want to be released right now?
Well, quite frankly, I've worked with this DA's office for quite a few cases, and I understand their protocol for not releasing information. If the DA is seen to be feeding information to the public, then they're tainting their jury pool, and that can be seen as problematic. I want access to all the information that they have. In some jurisdictions that we work in, they will share that information with us. And the truth is, the DA has been able to share what she can with us under the agreement that we won't share it with the public. Our primary interest is not releasing this to the public, but when information is released, for example, by people at the Dallas Police Department, that seems to be helpful for the defense, it seems only fair that information to counter that narrative that they're offering is released as well. It's a game that we actually shouldn't be playing with people's lives. We shouldn't be playing with justice, and it really shows the bad faith of the officers over at DPD.
All right, Lee Merritt, we surely appreciate it. Thanks a lot for joining us at Roland Martin Unfiltered.
Thank you.
All right, folks. Today, the Congressional Black Caucus dropped a new video targeting Donald Trump when it comes to his statement, "What the hell do African Americans have to lose for voting for him?" Remember, of course, they had that one meeting in his first year. Then they declined meet the second time, saying he did not do anything with regards to the 130 report presented to him. Here's that they dropped today.
African American communities have suffered. What the hell do you have to lose by trying something new like Trump?
Donald Trump and leaders of the Congressional Black Caucus met at the White House.
We brought him this book, 130-page policy document.
We wanted to answer for him the question of what do we have to lose?
The Southern Poverty Law Center, a nonprofit that tracks extremist groups and hate crimes, has reported a rise in bias-related attacks.
They were people protesting very quietly. I think there's blame on both sides. Wouldn't you love to see one of these NFL owners, when somebody respects our flag, to say, get that son of a nice.
Trump's campaign, even the slogan, Make America Great Again, has given license to hate.
Attorney General Jeff Sessions is ordering prosecutors to go after the toughest possible sentences, including those with mandatory minimums.
The new Trump administration plan would raise the rent for people living in public housing.
The Trump administration today reversed an Obama-era policy that encouraged colleges to consider race as a factor in admissions.
His presidency is a step backwards for race relations in America.
What Trump did was end $7 billion in Obamacare subsidies to insurance companies, payments designed to help them discount prices for low-income customers.
You are talking about millions of people benefit, not just people, employer-based insurance.
The insurance subsidies that are helping millions of Americans afford insurance. It would end the Medicaid expansion, and it would allow higher premiums for people with pre-existing conditions. What about that improves health care?
The decrease of the black unemployment rate has slowed under Donald Trump.
Americans earning less than $75,000 would face substantial tax increases.
Trump has a program or policies that are not benefiting African Americans.
This commission was set up specifically to manufacture evidence of voter fraud in order to suppress the votes of minority voters.
I don't think that we can trust our president when it comes to protecting voting rights.
President Trump has only been in office for 9 months, and he's nominated a number of nominees. 4 of them have been found unqualified.
90% of the nominees are white, 80% are male.
Some of them are far right. The person who had his blog suppressed.
The president should not be the subject of a criminal investigation, which the president is right now.
Donald Trump's lies just passed a milestone, crossing the 2,000 mark.
3,000, 4,000.
This Russia thing with Trump and Russia is a made-up story.
I believe there was collusion.
Donald Trump obviously is in debt to Vladimir Putin.
What the hell do you have to lose?
Dee, we have to answer the question, what has Donald Trump done for black folks?
Let's see. As a graduate of an historically black college and university, Fisk University, he did something that President Obama could have done but didn't do.
That is?
By forgiving
$322 billion loan?
$320 million loan.
Okay.
For the schools that were affected by Katrina.
Okay.
And unemployment under President Trump, not only has minority unemployment plummeted, but the unemployment gap has narrowed 3% for African Americans and 0.8% for Hispanics.
What did Trump do for that black unemployment?
So for those are 2 things that he's done for blacks, and not
but
2
what
things.
Targeted program did he do to reduce unemployment for people, for black and brown people? Targeted, that caused that reduction.
I can't tell you exactly what, I don't have that in my notes, but in regards to black Americans, in regards to Americans, period, for me and my family, in terms of our safety, I do feel somewhat safer.
What safety?
In the building of the wall or making sure that, and keeping America first, that, in my opinion, has resonated with me.
No. Hold on.
America first.
Hold on, Scott. Hold on. How are we safer? Because when you say safer, How are we safer when you have an attorney general?
But you can't.
Hold on, one second.
If people are shooting.
So hold on, one second. You just said.
Okay.
Me and my family are safer.
I said we feel safe.
Okay, and so I'm asking you the question: how are you safer? Then you referenced a wall. A wall hasn't been built.
And it hasn't been built. And so let me.
So how is a non-existent wall making you safer?
Is that he is making waves in terms of trying to keep America safe and keeping America first. And for me, that's important.
No. Again, hold up. I'm asking again, how? I don't want a phrase.
Right.
I want an actual example. How?
He said when he the wall, or he wanted to keep America safe. In doing so, he's been trying to make strides of doing that. But you can't, things don't happen automatically, and you do have to work towards certain things. And so I do understand that.
Like when he said Mexico was going to pay for it, and they're not paying for it. American taxpayers are paying for it.
Right.
When I also think about African Americans, you talk about being safe. I think about also African Americans being safe from police departments. And when the Attorney General of the United States actually stands before cops on multiple occasions and saying, we're going to do away with these consent decrees. Right. When he came in and immediately tried to do away with the consent decree in Baltimore, a consent decree the city of Baltimore agreed with and the police department agreed with, and the federal judge smacked his hand down. He went to outside of Chicago a few weeks ago, gave a speech saying that these consent decrees have hurt the morale of cops. He did not say a single word about the people, how they have been impacted by these cops. How has that? You keep talking about jobs. You keep saying jobs. I need somebody who is a Republican to explain to me how can somebody talk about jobs who in his budget wants to eliminate the National Minority Supplier Development Council. It's in his budget. They want to eliminate all those offices. Second of all, this administration also has made it hard for black-owned businesses to even get contracts because under Obama, they broke the contracts down into smaller contracts. The same thing Mayor Jackson did in Atlanta when he became mayor in 1973, and black people had 0.0012%, which is basically 10 cents of every $100 of every contract. What did Trump do? He came in and actually bundled them back together, making it harder for black folks to actually access those contracts. When Secretary Betsy DeVos has for-profit colleges off the hook and allowed them to come back in when the Obama administration was removing them from access to dollars. That's to get rid of the Affordable Care Act, which significantly increased the number of black people who actually have, for the first time, health insurance. Not only that, what has this man done for criminal justice reform, which I'm still waiting to see? And then he said, hey, we'll take it up after the election. What has this man done when it came to the issue of voter suppression? And we've seen in North Carolina, in Florida, in Mississippi, in Alabama, when the Obama administration, on their side, they sided with the plaintiffs when there was a voter ID case in Texas. 5 different judges said it was racially discriminatory as the Trump administration on the Jeff Sessions came in and sided with Texas. Please explain to me, with all of that, I've given you at least 8 examples of help black folks.
I think he's probably closer to black unity than we've been in about 40 years. Donald Trump is a hateful...
And another thing.
Yeah, I mean, Donald Trump is a hateful, lying, mentally ill, xenophobic con artist. And he, if nothing else, everything you listed, Roland, of course, is factual evidence. Let's just look at the intangibles. When you stand in a crowd in Mississippi and mock a white woman, when you talk about...
I don't agree with that.
No, it's not a matter of agreeing. I don't know. Where did you go? I don't know.
One right.
No, he lied. He said the only thing she remembered was having one beard. That's not only a bald-faced lie. I'm not going to say he's a liar in that regard because the man is mentally ill. At that point, he's playing to his base. His base is white supremacists. He has staffed his cabinet and his staff with white supremacists. Stephen Miller should have no business in the city of Washington, D.C. or around any decent human being. His xenophobic policies, they are trying to make America again, as it were ever. But when he was laughed at the Nation last week, that was in part because he has started this trade skirmish, to use Warren Buffett's, he says it's not a war yet. On China. You know what China did? China began to identify his little redneck racist friends in the United States Congress, like Paul Ryan from Janesville, Wisconsin, and Senator Mitch McConnell. And they said, let's target bourbon. let's target cranberries. The Chinese are going to eviscerate the American economy if they get a chance. And if you look at the map, there was one in the New York Times today, the communities that are going to be hurt the most are the ones that voted for Donald Trump.
Scott, this is the same administration. It's the same administration. It's the exact same administration that targeted Black Lives Matter activists and actually did away with the budget to monitor white supremacists in this country, individuals who have been targeting people of color. When you've had white folks in the Midwest and white have Donald Trump has a hate and exactly how any of that benefits black people.
Well, it certainly doesn't. But if you look at the rhetoric of the Klansmen, of the Nazis, of white supremacists,
come on, Scott,
and you look at the rhetoric of Donald Trump, as well as many in his administration, that rhetoric, they mirror one another. It's right out of the handbook of the Ku Klux Klan. That's right. But more importantly, the deeper and darker damage done to this country by Donald Trump lies in him giving license to those who don't look like me.
That's right.
Being comfortable bringing it mainstream, their hate speech in regard to people of color, their not even dog whistles that we hear, their direct rhetoric of scaring their constituency. It's all based on fear that people of color are taking their jobs, even though he claims that he's been a great job creator for people of color, black and brown, but he's brought it mainstream, people of color, just based on his rhetoric.
Again,
Again, there wouldn't be those attacks without his rhetoric.
Here's the deal, Dee. I operate in facts.
Okay.
I operate in facts. And if you can list a number of different things, that's fine. But when every time this administration, all they say is, oh, look how for black people. Let's look at the unemployment rate, as if that's the only thing that black people actually pay attention to. There are other issues that we care about that impact us in a much greater way. And again, I'm still trying to see it. I'm trying to see it when this administration has had to fire or force folks to resign repeatedly who have had racist commentary on radio, on blogs, and in print, who have worked for this administration in commerce, in housing, in the White House. They had to force out a speechwriter who was in the West Wing, who was attending a conference, sitting right next to a white supremacist, and they said what's wrong. You got Miller, who Richard Spencer, white supremacist who I interviewed, who said that was my mentor when I was at Duke University. I'm just still trying to understand. Please show me the body of evidence. I will gladly cite it, repeat it, and investigate it. But if I can show you in housing, in health care, in education, in fiscal policy, when it comes to even our businesses, and let's all remind you, National Minority Supply Development Council was created by Richard Nixon, a Republican. Republicans are allowing this man to eviscerate an office that actually is the only federal office designed to help minority businesses start businesses. What has he done for black people that I can actually look at and say it's factually correct?
I'm a small business owner myself. Small business optimization is higher.
Hold on, no. Define that. What do you mean it's higher?
It means that in small businesses, and create and build my business through the National Minority Supplier Development.
He wants to get rid of it.
And his daughter just met with the new president, Adrian, a couple of weeks ago.
No. Hold on 1 second. Hold on 1 second. There are 2.6 million black-owned businesses in America.
Right.
2.5 million have one employee. 7 years ago, we had 1.9 million black-owned businesses, 1.8 million one employee. 7 years ago, we had 1.9 million black-owned businesses that had an average annual revenue of $110,000. Now that we have 700,000 more black-owned businesses, they have an annual revenue of $54,000, cut in half. So please tell me what the hell has been optimized?
What I'm saying is that from where I'm seating, and what I've seen, I feel as though for Bass Public Affairs and for other businesses, things have gotten better. We've been able to actually communicate. And we've been able to actually grow our business.
Okay, here's the deal.
But endorsing what you were saying earlier, that
does your firm serve conservative interest? Hold on. Does your firm serve conservative interest?
Yes.
Okay. Of course your doors are open because you got a Republican who's the president.
But not just conservative interests. We could,
might be more than that.
Wait a minute, a basic question. We are a Christian-based business. So we will do business with anyone whose views are in line with ours. So we're not going to say, no, we're not going to assist, or no, we're not going to help or market someone because they're whatever. But if their views are in line with ours, then yes, we will work with them.
But here's my point. I don't see the evidence. I don't see the evidence in a variety of areas.
With Donald Trump,
I mean, let's take our pick. No. Let's take our pick. Okay. Hold up. Let me go by department.
Yeah.
Where's the evidence in housing?
Well, he's raising rents.
No. Where's the evidence in commerce? Where's the evidence in DOD? Where's the evidence in Interior? Where's the evidence in the SBA?
Are you asking all of us?
Where's the evidence? Anybody. Where's the evidence in the VA?
We know one thing. He has deregulated.
Where's the evidence? Where's the evidence in state?
It's in the opposite direction.
All I'm saying, just please offer me.
Right.
Offer me even a hint of evidence.
I just got one question.
Okay.
Do you feel, as a conservative, an obligation to defend the Trump administration?
No, and that's
simple.
No,
then you don't have to defend it. But I would say that.
What I'm saying
because
is
they hijacked, I think, what people might consider conservatives.
Neither myself nor my sister nor anybody at Bad Public Affairs, we will never say that everything that the president says or does is correct.
Now that's important.
And
that's important because the Republican Party has been hijacked by Donald Trump. So in other words, when I see an orange
hat, and that is a problem with the fact that conservatives will co-sign everything the president does, and you can't do that. And I would never do that.
This is what's missing from this dialogue.
Scott, go ahead. Final comment before I got to bring in my next guest.
So I will say yes, I agree, or no, I don't agree. And like when you said earlier in regards to him mocking the president, horrible things that he's done and said are absolutely wrong.
What's wrong when this man is called shitty countries that people look like us?
You're absolutely right.
But what is missing, and what would help Donald Trump, what's missing, which all of those departments, there could have been a positive answer to that, but he has no urban agenda. And remember, what he said before, he said, what do you have to lose? He talked about the unemployment rate, the violence rate, and yet he hasn't invested in the killing fields of Chicago. Exactly. And that was always his best example.
Because he uses Chicago at every point, but he hasn't even done that.
So when does the agenda, when do we get his urban agenda?
It don't exist. All right, y'all. Every week, of course, we have a Stuck on Stupid Person of the Week. And this week, it is Republican Congressman from San Diego, Duncan Hunter. Oh, yeah, an early and vocal Trump fanboy. He and his wife were recently indicted for, baby, we done with that conversation, Dee Dee. We done. Hold on. Duncan of campaign funds for expenses such as lavish vacations and dinners. Now, the couple is pleaded not guilty. Now, Hunter is running a despicable campaign bashing Muslims. He also said this: I was born in San Diego. Sorry, Southerners. You guys had some issues back in the day. Didn't happen out here on the West Coast.
Wow. Actually, it's
Duncan.
Some issues.
Duncan Hunter, Republican from San Diego. You ever heard of Ramparts Division in Los Angeles Police?
Watch out now.
You ever heard of the chokehold?
Come on.
You ever heard of the Rodney King verdict? Have you ever heard of the massive amounts of police abuse? Do you even know that body cameras actually started in Alta, California? Want us to talk about the Bay Area and the level of racial animosity that we've seen there? Do you actually want us to deal with San Francisco and the black folks have been run out of that particular place. Do you want to talk about the brother who was killed by the cops in his grandmother's backyard in Sacramento, California? Would you like for me to go up and down the West Coast? How in the hell you want to say it only happened to the Southerners, as somehow California has been this oasis of love for black folks and racial unity? That's why Congressman Duncan Hunter of San Diego is our stuck on stupid person of the week.
Stupid!
Maybe he was talking about slavery. Maybe he was talking about slavery.
I don't even know what the hell he was even talking about.
But Trump has made that okay. When you just lying all the time, you just make it okay for everybody else.
Matters. How has Dyke paid all these media companies a whole lot of money, and that's why they were talking about he was going to create Trump TV if he didn't win. Well, hell, he already got Trump TV, and it's called Broadcasting Cable. We'll be back at Roland Martin Unfiltered in just a moment. All right, folks, HBCU School, of course, founded in 1876, is a member of the Texas A&M University system and the Thurgood Marshall College Fund as well. So if you want to support Prairie View, go to pvamu.edu. And of course, Ruth Simmons, she is the president of Prairie View A&M University. And so I had a chance to see her Saturday when I was in Dallas for the State Fair Classic between Prairie View and Grambling. And so looking forward to having her on the show as well. All right, folks, we talked about yesterday how essentially media in this country has become Trump TV. And it was Ted Koppel who was on a panel with Brian Stetler of CNN and others where he criticized CNN saying, look, you guys do these panels, you do Trump all day, every day because the amount of money that you are making. Well, that's absolutely true. When you look at ratings across the board, all the networks, ratings are up. Folks cannot get enough of the circus that we see at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. Right now is
Yep, you got it.
I'm just double checking, of course. They hit Media America. They monitor the right-wing media and calls out their lies. Now, let me also be clear. So, Didi, your boy Brent Bozell of Media Research, who talks about the left, he won't bring his ass on this show because he's scared. I don't know what his problem is. And so I'm sure you were thinking why we would have Media Matters. So if you do know Brent, tell him he's more than welcome to come on this show. I don't know if he can handle his heat because he's a little bit more comfortable when he goes on Lou Dobbs' show. But I'm more than happy to have y'all from the Media Research Center come on the show, even your site, newsbusters.org, who gets all kind of stuff wrong all the time. But if y'all want some of this to bring the funk, come on. I welcome you at any time. Oh, by the way, y'all, Dinesh D'Souza, who agreed to debate me.
Yes.
So, Dinesh, you might want to come on here as well. And why I'm at it, Charlie Kirk and Candace Owens, y'all been running y'all mouth debating, challenging everybody else. I've been challenging y'all debate for the last month, and y'all been running. If y'all want to sit here and debate and see, I don't have to debate one of y'all. I'll actually debate both of y'all at the same time. And hell, y'all can bring 2 friends with you. 4 of y'all against me is really unfair for y'all. So if y'all want to debate, any of y'all, say it again.
Attack policy, not people.
Oh, no.
No, you're not attacking people.
Hold on, I ain't attacking people. I'm calling folks out who call other people out. Hold on, no. I'm calling names because we call it roll call.
Roll call.
So the deal is simple. If you out there want to challenge everybody else, if you want some of this, I'm going to call you out by name. Brent Bozell, anytime. Dinesh, anytime. Charlie Kirk, anytime. Candace Owens, anytime.
Come on. Roland Martin.
That's all I'm saying.
You sound like Rakim, 7 MCs.
That's all
Put them
I'm
in a line.
So I'll be specific. Because, see, they don't want any of this. But I'm more than welcome to have a conversation with them here. Hell, I go to their office. They want to have that conversation. I'm all right. In your estimation, look, I said this during the election. Media companies would love a Trump presidency because they knew it was going to be the realest reality TV having a fake billionaire who is in the Oval Office, a reality TV star, be president because it would be something nuts every day.
Yeah, I mean, and Les Moonves during the campaign, during a shareholders call, actually admitted it. He said Donald Trump may be bad for America, but he's great for CBS. And that's totally true, and it's completely reflected in their coverage today. Almost all of it is sort of continuing this larger storyline where Trump is basically, they try to portray him as a villain. That's what they want to do. It's a storyline. He is a villain. And it's about creating that people they hire even fit certain roles. So the best example of you were referencing CNN before, is they actually created a job description, not for a conservative commentator or somebody to advocate for one idea over another, but literally the job description is to be a pro-Trump person. You only have to defend the president. That is
and you have to do it a certain way. I know for a fact that CNN producers and bookers told Shermichael Singleton that one of the reasons they were not booking him more because he wasn't like Paris Denard. Robert Pinion, another conservative. They felt that he was too even-keeled. They wanted somebody who was going to be a vigorous defender of Donald Trump. Here were 2 black men who are conservatives, who are Republicans, who they felt, CNN felt, you're not sufficiently pro-Trump, so we're not going to book you.
Right, and instead they want people like Jeffrey Lord, right, who would only, it doesn't matter what was said, what was done, you could deny reality in order to fill the storyline. That there's a lot of real news there. And I've always maintained that, it's an excuse to say, well, it's interesting, this is what people want to pay attention to. And I just think that's a bunch of nonsense, because if you look at the way that they treat hurricanes, right, the only thing that ever seems to get more attention than Donald Trump is a hurricane. And there's no real reason to cover a guy standing on a beach except that they've built the drama around it. And they could make that kind of intensity around any story that they really wanted. A glacier falling off the side of the Arctic, you could make interesting if they wanted to. But right now,
yes, you can make poverty interesting. You can actually make
that's exactly right.
You can actually make what's happening in terms of all these people who actually thought Donald Trump was going to save their cities, like the carrier workers. I'm just saying. But see, but the other thing to me is also this notion of people who don't understand. Look how long it took the media to say Trump lies. Okay, I was probably one of the first to actually say, "Oh, not the lie is." It's not a lie because in order for me to call it a lie, I must know the intent of the person and what they were saying. And hell, if we know you ain't telling the truth, we call it a lie. And you had media companies who they would not say it. Then finally, once I think he probably hit about 1,000 lies, because he's now past 4,000 lies. They finally went, hell, just call it a lie because ain't no sense in us. And we were calling Trump Lies Matter the week after the election.
Right. That's right. Yeah, I mean, I think what's reflected there in that part of it is that what they haven't figured out, and this is across all journalism and news media, is that they haven't figured out how to deal with a bad faith individual, right? They know how to deal with people that are far on the ideologies one way or another. They know how to deal with false equivalencies, but they don't really know how to interact with somebody. About Trump, that's the entire Trump administration, right? Like, they don't know how to cover when sources that they typically would have previously relied on are actually stuff in bad faith to create a Trump that then respond to. That's the part that's still so troubling about it. It's not just the share of voice that Trump consumes in terms of the overall conversation. It's that they actually haven't quite figured out how to deal with bad faith individuals in their coverage.
Well, and I think that is because, frankly, the way the media played this game. Look, I spent 6 years at CNN, and I saw it up close and personal. They would say, well, what's your side? What's your side? Sometimes, a fact doesn't have a side.
Right.
There's only one side.
That's true.
Was factual. And so if you tell me that we increased spending by $500 million, and I go check it, and I see it was increased by $150 million, that's a lie.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And so we're out of. Thank you very much. As opposed to be honest, part of the problem is you got a bunch of these anchors on these cable networks who are not well-versed people, who don't know facts, so therefore they can't do real-time fact checks when somebody lies in front of them because they've been, frankly, depending on a producer who you don't see hand them little blue cards, tell them what to ask on television.
Wow.
That's totally true, and I think what you were getting to too is this idea that they're so concerned about cries of liberal bias, that they're biased, that they do engage in false equivalencies. So a large part is they don't have the resources to do it, and I bet even if many of them did know something was a lie, they still wouldn't call it out, or if it wasn't true, they still wouldn't call it out because they're too afraid to be viewed as political one way or another. And the part that really concerns me is that's a working the ref strategy that the right wing started in the 90s, and now they're the same thing on the social media front, right? The way they're saying Facebook and Google are out there to get them, and that's the same that was deployed to do the same thing on social media. That is the media landscape. So.
Let me ask you a question, because in that same, I think it was Ted Koppel article that I read, he talked about how the media is getting played by Donald Trump, how he is such a news story every day that he mandates that the media, whether you're left or right, cover him, and then they become the enemy, and he criticizes them in this kind of self-perpetuating circle. Can you talk about that and whether you've seen that article or not?
I have seen it, and I can definitely speak to that personally. I mean, one thing about Trump, so in 2012, well before he ran for president, I had done a campaign against him to get him fired from Macy's and had this big petition and all these events, and he tried to sue me, and it was this long, protracted media battle. And one thing I learned at that time that he'll call these reporters, he'll call producers. And at that point, part of it is that he in those interactions, there's almost an addiction to it. Aside from the fact that it's great for the brand of reporter these days or a member of the media, it's not so much that you're writing for the outlet you are, but your social media account is movable.
Right.
When you leave that job, that is your currency. And so the idea that you get access to him, this whiff of it, it can be very appealing. There's an irresistible temptation to be a part of the larger story. But
that's how he became president.
That's
because
exactly
the reality,
right.
And again, I can tell you I said it yesterday when I was at CNN. I told Stephanie Katubi, who was the booker of CNN, why in the hell do y'all keep booking and Wolf keeps going to interview Donald Trump? They love that. That's the reality. Didi, your thoughts on this? Do you believe that the media falls for every Donald Trump tweet, falls for every single sideshow because, frankly, they are enjoying the amount of money that they're making from the circus every day?
Anybody's going to enjoy. I don't think that I'm going to agree. I don't think you should agree with everything just because he's the president or just because you're a conservative. That doesn't make sense to me. And if you're wrong, whether the tweet is or not, or whatever, that's my mother calling me, no, I wouldn't agree with it. And yes, the media, they're loving it because he's always tweeting. I think that he should put his phone down sometimes. He needs a timeout. Put the phone down. You don't need to tweet every single day.
Well, especially when you don't even start work till 1 p.m. because you're watching television for the first 5 hours of the day. Greg, go ahead.
Let me ask, in terms of media matters, it's very interesting because a couple of things. Broadcast media, like we saw yesterday, April Ryan and Aisha Rasco, who led out, shout out Howard University, one of my former students.
It's you?
Yeah, you know.
You know?
You know, brother. but they took on Sarah Huckabee. So my first question would be, what is the responsibility of the so-called mainstream media, meaning cable, broadcast television? And the second question is in terms of media mattering. Roland Martin, the internet,
And that's been the biggest change inside this role was actually, 1 out of every 2 Americans uses their social media feed as their primary source of news. And when you think about social media feed, it's digital programs too. I mean, that is the lens through which they see the world. That is the ball game. And so a lot of what we're talking about is legacy media, and that's not to dismiss it, but that is the future really is social media, and a large part of it is why Trump is also so powerful these days, at least in terms of his ability to shape the stories.
But a couple of things. The mistake that they made yesterday in questioning Sarah Sanders, and that was a mistake. By tagging on Hillary Clinton and Bill Clinton, they gave Sarah Huckabee the out. That was a mistake. The reality is this here. See, the way I operate is if I know that you're going to somehow switch the story, I'm not going to let you switch. They ignored her question about the Central Park 5 because they added the first sister who asked the question, she mentioned Hillary Clinton. April added Bill Clinton. That's what Sarah Huckabee Sanders jumped on. So that gave her the out. So they also, when I see these time by tagging on something else, it's an absolute issue. And so that's the one mistake they also do. And it's also interesting when you talk about that to these other outlets, it's very simple. It's interesting. All of these media writers, we've been on the air now 1 month. 8.24 million views the first month. Not one single media writer has done a story on us creating an independent news show.
That's right.
Not one. Wow. And because I saw it, we had TV One. They would rarely write about us at TV One because even the media writers want to protect legacy media.
That's right, and that's ultimately means it's why they seem to. That's why they don't understand why the part of the story they're telling when the results come in the election. They say, well, how the hell did that happen? Well, it's because you're not paying attention. You're only looking at a small, narrow perspective that really isn't the whole ballgame.
That's why I appreciate the New York Times that they having a story on the black women who are working for votes in the South. Thank you for finally realizing that. We've only been discussing that thing is when they decide to. Scott, thank you so very much well. And again, anytime you beyond those 2 things you brought up, please email it, fax it to me, send a pigeon. It's all good.
I'm coming back.
Okay.
She's coming back. Okay. I mean, I know it's your show. I haven't been
No, please. No. I want you to come back, but don't wait to come back with the list.
No.
Because you're probably not going to have that list to come back.
Are you doing the show tomorrow?
Huh?
Are you doing the show tomorrow?
Oh, baby, I do the show 5 days a week. As a matter of fact, if you got that list on Saturday and Sunday, you can come by the house, and then we'll actually shoot the video there. But I'm just letting you know it's going to be a while before you get that list. So, folks, if y'all want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered, go to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Understand, of course, we have the show on YouTube, Periscope, as well as Facebook, so be sure to watch the show and tell a friend. And again, if you want to join our Bring the Funk fan club, do so. Again, Roland Martin, all of you for watching as well. This is also you own operate by one of these networks. You don't have to say, oh my God, we're out of time. But we're going to get out of here. Y'all enjoy. Have a great night. I got